Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to create Final Destination inside of a mint container. The first question we face is which flavor to use. I think for this one I'm going to use wintergreen because it's my least favorite flavor. And can anyone tell me what uncle is supposed to mean? I really don't understand why this is on here. And you know, the best part about this is eating the dust at the bottom. I'm using a mix of some waste clay from other projects to fill in the bottom of this tin. On top of that, I'm gonna go for a purplish black. I wasn't quite sure what to do since the stage is kind of floating in the air, but I think it's kind of a good spacey theme. Let's start working on the stage itself. This stage is very jagged and floating in the air, so we have to create a lot of strange details. Now this part here that I cut out is typically a metal cage, but I don't really know how I would create that this small, so I just left that empty. After our purple outline is done, we can remove it from the table and bake it. And as you can see, the unbaked clay likes to remove chunks from my table. I think somehow the white paint interacts with the clay in some weird way and it kind of starts to melt it. This also happens with a number of different plastic items as well, including, oddly enough, some clay tools. I had a few tools that actually became deformed and started to melt. I've created these little pointed pillars, and we're going to put that at each of the corners. In the center of the stage, we have this octagon, which seems to hold some kind of crazy power that makes this stage float. There's a lot of detail going on with the stage, and I'm creating it very small, so I had to do a little bit of improvising, but I think it's looking pretty cool. This is that extreme power I was talking about. Not sure what it is, but it kind of looks like it's making the stage float. And now, we are ready to get baked. After baking, we can take some super glue to put these different pieces together. Here we have our background, and this is actually one of the backgrounds directly from the game. I printed this on some sticker paper so it's easy to attach onto the back. I like to use some super glue to hold the background into place. So it looks like our stage is complete, but we're missing something. Something very important. A boss, or in this case, two bosses. If you would have told me a year ago I was making a boss battle entirely made of hands, I would not have believed you, because about a year ago, hands were my worst enemy, and I always had the hardest time trying to create these, but I feel like making the Cuphead bosses really made me better at making hands. Unfortunately, this hand is way too big, so instead I'm going to go for a much smaller hand, and this time it's going to be a fist. Off the top of my head, I couldn't remember all of the attacks that the Master and Crazy Hand do, so I had to watch some gameplay. I chose the fist because it's one of the few attacks that wouldn't require a wire. However, the laser hands I can get away with using a wire because it's gonna look like a laser, not a wire. So hopefully it's gonna give the illusion of floating in the air. In order to do this, we need to break out some wire, and this is some very, very thin gauge wire. I'm gonna poke some really tiny holes in the fingers and super glue these wires into place. After getting them in a nice standing position, we can get a paint marker. And apparently I didn't make the holes deep enough, so let's redo that part. Now it's much stronger and I can finish painting these lasers. Honestly, I think that looks really good, so let's get that onto the stage using some more super glue. Now we need a fighter who's capable of taking down the Master and Crazy Hand. Who are we gonna make? None other than Mario. I've made a lot of tiny characters before, but nothing quite this tiny, and honestly, it's probably the best looking character I've ever made. I thought of adding in some ears, but I don't think they work out when it's this tiny. As you can tell, when you make something this small, you have to rely entirely on tools. You can't use your hands for any of this. And this is how tiny our little Mario is. He could fit on top of my fingernail. Yet somehow he's incredibly detailed. After getting Mario baked, we can superglue him onto the stage, ready to fight. And that is our final detail, so here it is, Final Destination, inside of a mint container. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you want to see some other mint container builds I've done, I'll leave a playlist at the end of this video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.